possibility, plus some optimism or positivity, and work help you get where you're gonna be. They help you get to that millionaire mindset. People that are focused on money alone, chasing money, don't ever catch it. They never catch it. People that are chasing the things they love to do, and they're working hard every day at it, and they have a great energy about them with positivity, and they believe it's possible to become a millionaire. And I say this all the time, but here's why I say it. Leveraging where you are right now to get where you want to be is the key. It's finding the gratitude and blessing in every day of what you're doing now that's going to get you to the next level, not hating it. Making it matter. Making the little things matter really does make something bigger. It builds the next chapter. You can't build the next chapter if you're not leveraging where you are right now to where you want to be. See, if you haven't defined what a rich life really means to you, you're already living broke. Because a rich life doesn't mean my version of rich. It's your version of rich. And to some people, it's waking up every day wearing what they want, going to eat breakfast at a certain place, having time with their family, not missing anything that they deem important. What defines a rich life has nothing to do with money at all. It really has to do with the money doing what you need it to do only. It's about defining the richness of your day, the richness of your future, what it means to not be broke. Most people walk through life defining broke as not having enough money, but they don't actually spend the time creating a goal or vision for their life. They don't actually spend the time identifying what would they do if they had more. Many a times in my office, people come in and they say, if I only made X amount of money, everything would be fine. We could do everything we're doing now, plus we could go on a couple vacations a year. I'd be able to cover the kids' college, I'd be able to do this, and it's just this amount of money. 5 years later, they make well more than that amount of money. They come back in and they say the same thing. If I only made this much money, I would be able to do X and Y. And I always have tried to reframe people down to the things that are most important. The illusion of wealth is a trap. Focusing on money alone is a trap. Focusing on thing that can solve all your problems is a trap. Focusing on what it means, the value behind it. What can money do for you for security, for protection, for your relationships? Now it becomes purposeful, but not the other way around. Don't be a Scrooge. Don't end up in a cold room counting money, focusing on the things that don't matter in life. Let's focus on the things that matter most to us. Let's live a rich life. That is the key to success. The illusion of wealth is a trap. Living richly is better than being rich. What does it mean? What does it mean when someone says living richly? What is the illusion of wealth? The thought process is the more money I have, the better life becomes. The more money you build, the easier everything gets. We all know more money also is more problems. People understand this concept, but what does it mean to really live richly? And what happens if you're not living richly? The best way to paint a not living richly life is to think of Scrooge. If you think of the old story of Scrooge, you think of an older man sitting in a cold building where he's barely heating it, counting his coins, counting his money. See, people still do this today. They watch their stocks all day long. They look at their wallet with their Bitcoin, and they spend all day thinking and talking about money. It's a hobby, but it's not living richly. What does living richly really mean? This comes out of my book. There's a story that I share from when my boys were younger many years ago, and my oldest son, who's got that entrepreneur brain, kind of looked at me as I was shutting out the light one night and walking out, and he said, "Dad, would you be rich if you didn't have us?" And I kind of chuckled and I laughed, and I remember thinking, Well, I mean, if you're talking pure financially, you are expensive. You are very expensive. But I obviously didn't say that, and I obviously don't feel that. The truth was this. I immediately looked at him after laughing and saying, I totally understand why you're asking that. But buddy, let me explain something. Living richly is different than having more money and being rich. And here's the key. Having you and your brother in my life and our family has created more wealth and purpose in my life than anything money can provide. If all the money was gone and all I had were you, I have a full life and a great life. And that's the truth. See, when you're investing in another human, it's not the cost that you're looking at, it's the investment. I'm investing in my children as their father to create successful humans, good relationships, and learning from them every single day as much as I'm teaching them. My favorite parts of my day are watching the kids play soccer, going to games on the weekends, traveling as a family, watching them grow up. That's living richly. And that's just one part. That's just the part that I chose to illustrate as a point. But the illusion of wealth is the trap. And the trap is this. See, growing up and not having as much, it's very easy. If you grew up in a way where you didn't have a whole lot of extra money and your mom or dad said no the minute you asked for something, you understood immediately. Most people did if they had any concept of the struggle their family may or may not have been going through. The reality is no meant no. What does it mean when you have more? When your family or your children know that you have more? Is it harder or easier for that person? Because no longer means no. No is now personal. No is now personal. Because you're choosing to say no even though you can. Why? Why are you saying no? Family, friends, other people want to know. Employees, whoever it is that you work with, people, when you are more successful and you have a more wealthy lifestyle, people want to know why you can't give. Not just that no means no anymore. See, the reality is it creates complexity in your life, not that it's bad, not that you should look at it as a negative, but you should be aware of it. But it should not be the focus. See, when the focus is living richly, you're focusing on the priorities. You're focusing on life's priorities. If you had moments to live, nothing in you thinks about passing your money to someone else. If you have moments to live, you're only thinking of the people that you love, that you'll miss, that will miss you, how they feel, what the world will be like without you. These are things that are powerful, and they're way, way, way above the illusion of wealth. Now look, having a little bit more than you need makes life a little bit easier. Let's be honest. We're not trying to say that having a wealthy lifestyle or making great money or being successful is bad. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you focus on living richly, it's better than being rich. We all know people that are rich and wealthy that are like Scrooge. They're empty. They're alone. They're missing out on the real value of life. Their kids don't talk to them, or you are their kid and you're not talking to your family. Their relationships are splintered. The very things that you want in life are the things that you prioritize as what matters most. And for most of us, what matters most are our relationships, our health, our spirituality. You know, and what we do every day, we do with passion, with love for the game, if you will, not just going to work, but actually loving what you do. These are the things that I frame my day out of, and I think a lot of people do. And if you do that and you live richly, you're actually leaving a legacy and living a legacy at the same time. Your impact is every day. And because of that, it makes life worth living and purposeful. And it applies so much more happiness and joy to our lives than money can ever do. The illusion of wealth is a trap. Focusing on money alone is a trap. Focusing on thing that can solve all your problems is a trap. focusing on what it means, the value behind it. What can money do for you for security, for protection, for your relationships? Now it becomes purposeful, but not the other way around. Don't be a Scrooge. Don't end up in a cold room counting money, focusing on the things that don't matter in life. Let's focus on the things that matter most to us. Let's live a rich life. That is the key to success. Secret to not being broke. The secret to not being broke is about creating a rich life. But when I say rich, I don't mean rich like money. I mean rich like, what does rich actually mean to you? What is a perfect day? What do you want to do with your life? Who do you want to be? Who are you going to spend your time with? If you were living a rich life, what does that look like? Most people that spend their time thinking about how broke they are spend their time in a broke mindset. I love this story. It's been told a lot of different ways, but this is my version of it. There is the rich CEO, and he's making tons of money, and he's busy, and he barely has time for anything, so he books himself a 2-week vacation. And him and his family go out, and every morning he gets up before everybody because he's used to waking up early, and he sits on the beach by himself, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and every morning he just watches the world go in front of him. He reads, he thinks, he sees this one fisherman every day. And after about 5 or 6 days, he talks to the fisherman. And the fisherman goes out every morning and comes back every evening. And he has a certain amount of fish, and he's fairly successful. But the fisherman simply is fishing to eat for the day. There's really nothing else that fisherman is doing. He's not fishing to make a living. He's fishing to eat. And so the CEO says, I can help you. I can help you. And I don't know anything about this because I love helping people help define their why. But I can relate to the story so much. I can help you, he says. And he says, you know, you could probably have a second boat, couldn't you? And the fisherman says, well, why would I want a second boat? And he says, well, if you have a second boat, you could bring in double the amount of fish. Where do you sell your fish? And he goes, oh, if I have extra, we sell to the market or we feed other families in the area and they pay me. But ultimately, if you had 2 or 3 boats, think of all the fish you'd be bringing in and the extra money you'd be making. And the fisherman goes, well, what does that mean? And he goes, well, if you had 2 or 3 boats, you'd be able to not have to go fish at all. You could sit right here and manage it. And then eventually, you know, it could continue to grow. Maybe 3 becomes 6 boats. And the fisherman says, well, what do I do when I have 6 boats? And he goes, we might be able to connect you with actually shipping some of the fish to other markets, different markets. And so they're on this beautiful beach, and the fisherman continues to go out every day and come back. But the fisherman finally says, he goes, well, what am I actually going to do? And the businessman, the CEO, is sitting there describing this great setup of how he can help this guy amplify his life, amplify his money, amplify everything in his world through the lens of financial success. And the fisherman says, I really don't see why I would do that just so I could come and spend 2 weeks sitting on the beach doing exactly what you're doing when I get to do this every single day. I wake up, I fish, I come home. The relaxation that I have every day is the relaxation that you try to fit into your life for 2 weeks. And there was just this major aha moment for the businessman, right? And maybe the aha moment to the fisherman who in the beginning was enthralled with the conversation. See, if you haven't defined what a rich life really means to you, you're already living broke. Because a rich life doesn't mean my version of rich. It's your version of rich. And to some people, it's waking up every day wearing what they want, going to eat breakfast at a certain place, having time with their family, not missing anything that they deem important. What defines a rich life has nothing to do with money at all. It really has to do with the money doing what you need it to do only. It's about defining the richness of your day, the richness of your future. what it means to not be broke. Most people walk through life defining broke as not having enough money, but they don't actually spend the time creating a goal or vision for their life. They don't actually spend the time identifying what would they do if they had more. Many a times in my office, people come in and they say, if I only made X amount of money, everything would be fine. We could do everything we're doing now, plus we could go on a couple vacations a year. I'd be able to cover the kids' college, I'd be able to do this, and it's just this amount of money. 5 years later, they make well more than that amount of money. They come back in and they say the same thing. If I only made this much money, I would be able to do X and Y. And I always have tried to reframe people down to the things that are most important. I'll never forget a conversation I had one time where somebody was hating their life, hating their job, hating everything about what they were doing, but they had adult children living in their home. And all the money they were earning was going to pay for the adult children who were not sailing on their own, if you will. And so all their self-hate and their unhealthiness and their frustration was all coming from them working longer than they should have, because they could have retired, they could have stopped, they could have changed their trajectory. But in the conversation, I simply asked the question, what's worth more to you, money or time? And they were almost floored. And I said, well, the way I figure it is you're working and you're making six figures only to cover your adult children to live in your house or on your dime. And you hate your job and you hate your life right now and you have no time to spend with your grandchildren. So wouldn't it be better to make a little less money, make them go out on their own and actually do something for themselves? And then on top of that, you have all the time in the world to spend with your grandchildren, to teach them the things that you love, to show them what you love to do. This is helping someone define what rich means to them, and it's not just about the money. Yes, it's ridiculous to think that money isn't a part of freedom, okay? Yes, unless you're the fisherman living in a small village in maybe Sicily, and you wake up every day and you fish to eat and you go home and you live in a very small place and there's no rent because your parents have owned it for generations. Yes, we know that's not normal. It's especially not normal here. But the reality is, until you define what your rich life is, if your rich life is fishing every day, it doesn't cost a ton of money to do that. You don't have to be a multi-millionaire to fish every day. But if you want to deep sea fish on a big boat with an entire crew every single day, you probably need to earn more money. And that's a goal, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody defines rich but you. I can tell you this, if you let me define it, I will find greatness in you. I will look for the greatness in you. I will exploit the greatness in you. I will literally develop a plan that will make you greater than you ever dreamed you could be. You'll believe it. But if you don't define where it stops, people like me just keep helping you go. And that doesn't help you at all. Because the reality is, what you need is the spark of belief and confidence. What you need is someone to actually take you to a new level. But you have to define what that rich life looks like. Here's the other secret. A rich life has to run a cycle. Where you are right now is right where you're supposed to be. I say that all the time. But don't ever think that what you defined as rich early in your life is usually or is the same as what it will be when you're 20 years earlier. It's the old thought process that at 18 to 25 you think you've got it all figured out. But when you wake up at 40, there's nothing about what you thought about 18 to 25 that's really probably close to where you think a rich life would be at 40. What you think changes. Wisdom changes you. Experience changes you. Rich is a cycle. And at different cycles of your life, you need more, and sometimes you need less. Sometimes you need one trip a year just to reset. At other times in your life, you need more. Sometimes you're going through a transition with your spouse, And maybe the kids are getting out of the house now for the first time ever, and you now have to redefine what rich means to your relationship. This isn't just a one-time thing. It's a redefining, a refresh, and it needs to be thought of on a regular basis. But if you don't control it, someone else will. Your spouse will control it, your partner will control it, your friends will control it, but you define what rich means to you. If rich means waking up at the beach every day and going surfing and living in a little bungalow on the beach, eating ramen noodles and hanging out, that's awesome. I could do that for a couple of days. I would love that for a couple of days. I couldn't do that the rest of my life. I got to sprint. I got to run. I got to move, right? I know what defines rich to me. And I'm willing to change as I grow, as I learn, as my priorities become less about me and more about my family. As I watch my children grow, as I watch my wife and I's relationship grow, rich takes on new meanings. But let me tell you what, broke is a mindset. Broke is only where you are thinking that you're stuck. And if you think the word broke, you are not seeing any level of opportunity in your life. You have not defined what rich means, and you have not gone after the action steps that it takes to start moving yourself to that next level. Rich is no different if you just define it. You can achieve it, but you have to think it's possible. You have to run towards your goals. And at the end of the day, being broke is actually about creating a plan of what living a rich life. What does true freedom mean to you? If you can do that, you can avoid the word broke your entire life. Because that guy on the beach that had all the money in the world, looking at that fisherman, probably thought he was broke. But he actually defined richness quite clearly to him. He confidently said, this is what I live for every day, and I'm comfortable, and I love it. While you work all year to have this for 2 weeks. There's no right or wrong answer to that. But what does rich mean to you? How do you avoid being broke? Think about that. It's something that will resonate with you, and it will alter your mindset to a point of growth and wisdom and opportunity. Broke is a mindset of negativity. They say money can buy happiness. They are wrong. It can't. Money cannot buy happiness. Money can provide a better lifestyle, more comfort, a lot of other things. Here's some perspective. According to some recent articles, I was just looking up for some level of perspective. If you have income somewhere around $600,000 a year, you're in the top 1% in the United States of income earners. If you have about $890,000 of net worth, you're in the top 1% of the world in net worth. From a net worth perspective, if you have about $93,000 to your name, you're in the top 10% in the world. If you wanted to just be in the top 50% worldwide, under $5,000 gets you there. This is pretty powerful information because most of you watching this video are in the top percentages of everything we just said, and you don't even know it. And you certainly don't feel like it. We never feel like it, right? We're always in a position where we're on the top of the world, but it doesn't feel like enough. See, money can't buy happiness, can it? But what can it do? Perpetuating the money myth is all about disproving little tiny things that people, that others try to tell you. So if you only had this much money, you'd be fine. You'd be fine. If you have $93,000, that's all you need. Who are they? How do they define your success? How do you go from having nothing to having something? And how do you define those things? That's really what this is about. Because the money portion is one component, but understanding how to build something, how to build net worth, how to not focus so much on income, how to actually build something bigger than yourself takes a couple of key things. It always starts with the first thing, and it's education. You'll hear this everywhere. It's actually something that no matter what political party, no matter what country you live in, everybody agrees more education gets you in a better spot. I'm gonna be a little bold here And I'm going to tell you, it's not just going to college. It's not just getting a formal education. I'm not a huge fan of formal education, to be honest with you. I admire it. I appreciate it. I love what it can do for people, but I don't think it's the end all. I don't think that just because you go to the best college in the country or you continue to get your master's and your PhD, that you really know anything until you've actually done something with it. See, the reality is education goes well beyond just getting a piece of paper. Education is about identifying what it is that you're trying to be when you grow up. What is it that you want to be, and how are you going to get there, and how do you educate yourself right now on the things it's going to take you to get there? That may mean that you need a formal education. And I did this, I appreciate it, I'm very grateful for my degree. But here's the reality. You also need to take it way further. Educate means educate yourself on the field that you're interested in. Educate yourself in the space that you love. Educate yourself on the people that are doing what you're doing. Education goes beyond just reading a book. It comes from application. See, it's great to do a study on somewhere in the world like Rome, Italy, right? But if you've never been to Rome, Italy, you don't really know much about Rome, Italy by just reading about it. You're reading someone else's perspective, which is a part of the education, a very important part of the education. But then applying that education to your own life is valuable. It's actually invaluable. It's the best thing you can do. Education is active learning. Fixed learning is key. I love that. Learn from what exists. Learn from what you can read. Learn, learn, learn. Watch videos. Grow. But apply it and watch how quick you learn. Education with application is special. It's also really important to identify what it is that you love and educate yourself in that capacity. Anything I've ever been interested in my life, let's put this in perspective. Anything I've ever been interested in my life, I've learned about. I loved wine. I started a wine festival. I started the wine festival partly because I wanted to learn more about wine. And I wanted to see how the impact of something I was interested in could actually learn and teach me in other ways where we could give back to the community. Combining those things taught me more about wine than I ever learned just sipping on it. Every year I learn more and more, and I still don't know anything. But I've found a lot of people that do, and I know who to call when I need more information on wine. I love to travel. I love to identify things that matter and go there and experience them. But before I experience them, I read it. In the financial world, I've spent years studying and reading and learning, and I continue to develop that growth with people that have done 10 times more than anything I've done in business, in entrepreneurism, in the financial space. All these things are part of my education, but my education never stops. It never ends. Here's the next thing that goes into kind of growing this something into so much more. If you have nothing and you want to build, education is the starting block. It's the starting point. It's exponential, but it's not enough. Getting the application goes into leverage. What do I mean by leverage? Leveraging where you are now to where you want to be is imperative. That means that every day you're doing something now, you're actually leveraging something that you're doing right now into who you want to be when you grow up. You're leveraging some small task you're doing right now that's going to make you better at what you love. It's going to make you better at who you want to be. You have to define who you want to be. There has to be a picture of some sort. That's what I'm doing with my hands, is a picture. What's the picture of what you want to be? And then leverage everything you're doing right now to help you get there. So you've learned about it. You've read about it. You've started to apply it, but now as you're applying it, what are the very things that you can leverage every day to get you to the next level? What are the things that you do every day that will be invaluable to your future? There are things I did when I worked for the Attorney General's office every single day that were small and minute, but running meetings. I ran meetings with really, really important people as a kid, as a 21, 22-year-old kid. I sat in rooms with heads of companies and all these really, really important people. I learned very invaluable skills that I would utilize later in my careers. When I worked for the first financial firm for almost 15 years, I had leadership opportunities to develop and recruit and teach. All those things gave me the skills to leverage and utilize later when I became the CEO of Freedom Street Partners. All those skills and leveraging of those activities and applications of the education I was getting, live, living education and application, I was able to leverage into the next chapter of my career. See, if you look at where you are right now as the wrong spot, you're looking at it the wrong way. Where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. And I say this all the time, but here's why I say it. Leveraging where you are right now to get where you want to be is the key. It's finding the gratitude and blessing in every day of what you're doing now that's going to get you to the next level, not hating it, making it matter. Making the little things matter really does make something bigger. It builds the next chapter. You can't build the next chapter if you're not leveraging where you are right now to where you want to be. So we've talked about education. We've talked about leveraging and applying it and where you are now being the right spot. The next ingredient is key. It's a great word. It's called elevate. Elevate means enhance, grow, step up, expand, get to the next level. All right? If you're starting from the bottom and you want to get to the top of whatever that is, maybe for you it's the top 50% and you need to have $4,000 to your name. Maybe for you it's the top 1% of income earners in the United States and you want to be in that $1 million range and really make a difference. I don't know what that is to you, but here's the key component. When you're educated and you're applying it and you're leveraging it, if you don't elevate your thinking, if you don't think bigger, if you don't build something bigger than where you started and realize that where you were, in order to get to the next level, you have to see it, you have to visualize it, you have to think about it. You got to surround yourself with people that elevate your game. Everything is about elevating to the next level. And if you're going to elevate, if I want to go from 4,000 being the top 50% in the world that we talked about earlier, and I want to level up to 93,000, which puts me in the top 10% in the world, am I hanging out with a bunch of people that actually are elevating my mindset, that are actually already there? Where is it I'm trying to go, and how am I going to get there? Really leveling up. Elevation is all about a higher level. You have to decide what that is for you. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't get to the level and you want to stay in that level. You don't always have to keep leveling up, but the reality is most people do. Most people, if you're applying an elevation mindset, you have a life goal of growth. If you are trying to go from zero to millionaire, if you are trying to go from no money to wealthy, living a wealthy life, living a rich life, not just money, but living richly, you got to continue to educate. You got to continue to leverage where you are now, and you got to constantly be elevating. But once you define where you want to be, it's okay to stay there. But elevating the game helps you get to the next level. It's like climbing a mountain, right? Eventually you get to the top of that mountain. Do you admire it from where you are? Do you look out on the horizon and say, wow, look how far I've come? Do you look at the higher mountain above you, right next to you, that now you say, now I'm going to climb that one? Do you look down and say, oh my gosh, how am I going to get back down to where I was? Because I want to make sure I don't lose who I am, and I want to always be grounded and down to earth. What is that elevation? What does that mountain mean to you? What are you climbing? Who are you climbing it for? Who are you climbing it with? These are all great questions for you to identify how to get to the next level. See, the money myth is that when you focus on the money, you're missing the whole point. Money doesn't chase people except when they're doing all the right things. And if you want to be great at something, educate, leverage, and elevate, and you're going to find success at every single level, no matter what you see on the top of your mountain. Becoming a millionaire is not your right. It is not your right. You are not supposed to just have this because you deserve it. You don't deserve anything that you don't work for in life. And the reality is, it starts with a mindset. The millionaire mindset starts with something that's extremely unique but easy. It's a recipe for success. You don't just wake up and have the right to be wealthy. People, the majority of millionaires, in fact, I believe the number is 70+% of millionaires today started with zero. They woke up with nothing, and today they have something substantial. So the gap between the thinking of thinking that they just got there because someone gave it to them is absolutely ridiculous. But there is a recipe. And the millionaire mindset is something that isn't ridiculous. Because if you think about where it all starts, first of all, it starts in the world of possibility. Being a millionaire, being someone that has accumulated enough wealth that they can do the things they want to do. And maybe for you, it's a multimillionaire. But the reality is to be wealthy in that capacity starts with possibility. You've got to believe that you can do it. You've got to believe that you deserve it. Okay? You don't just deserve it because you were born, but you do have to believe that you deserve it, that you're willing to go there. You have to believe in the possibility that these things can happen. A lot of people actually never even get to this first step. They never even get to the spot because they just believe that they were born into this world and this is their hand and they've been dealt it and they're never going to get out of it. Man, that's so sad. I think back to being a kid and thinking that I could be, one of two jobs. Was I going to be a teacher or a police officer? My brain was defined in one of two different directions. And as I got older and met new people and expanded my thought, possibility started to seep in, okay? It started to become something that I could think in a whole different realm. Possibility gave me the ability to think in a different way, to find things that I love to do and then do them, right? I also had to have something else. Possibility without optimism is useless. So I can't believe something's possible and then throw negativity at it every single day. Optimism and positivity means that every day I wake up and I say, it's going to be better today. I'm going to work towards this goal today. I have something in my brain that I'm working for and it's possible, so I'm going to work at it. See, optimism with possibility adds that positive flair that gets you through the hard days. Failure is inevitable. Disappointment is inevitable. Just because something's possible doesn't mean it's going to be immediate. It means that it also has to have something else. Work. Hard work. Work ethic. So let's go back. Possibility plus some optimism or positivity and work help you get where you're going to be. They help you get to that millionaire mindset. People that are focused on money alone, chasing money, don't ever catch it. They never catch it. People that are chasing the things they love to do, and they're working hard every day at it, and they have a great energy about them with positivity, and they believe it's possible to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire, that is the mindset that stands out amongst everybody else. See, the work is simply the word execution. Execution is where the idea becomes a reality. So when you start putting the optimism, the possibility, and the work, you get execution. You start to see what's working and what's not. It's split testing, if you will, okay? If you're going to run a marketing ad, you're going to run an ad on Instagram or Facebook, on whatever, and you're going to run them in 2 different ways, 3 different ways. What worked best? See, we learn this through failure. We learn it through work. We learn it through execution. You don't learn it through thinking. Thinking keeps you in thought, but you need the execution of thought to actually learn from it. It's mandatory to think, but it's also mandatory to execute. If you spend all your time thinking and just being positive, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, it won't get you anywhere. The secret is not the secret without action. It's action. You do have to believe it. You do have to surround yourself in a certain environment, but darn it, you got to work towards it. You also have to actually set a goal, okay? If the goal's just a dollar amount, it's empty. If the goal is $1 million of net worth, $1 million of liquid net worth, $1 million of play money, whatever your goal is, if it's only money related, the number keeps changing. Don't make your goal about money. Make your millionaire mindset something that allows you to go through it, to break through the wall. The first wall of possibility is the biggest goal you can think of. What is possible in my brain, and think of that. Then break through it and think of something else. Because the reality is, when you think about things in a bigger way, it's only because you've crashed through the old one that you can now think in that different capacity. But goals allow you to actually celebrate the successes along the way. The key component is you've got to enjoy the journey as much as you enjoy the result. This is something most of us fail at. I failed at many years in my life, especially early on. I spent so much time working and working and working towards the goal of maybe financial independence and financial freedom for our family and any of the other things that I could contribute to the community and other people's lives that was driving me, that maybe I forgot to enjoy the ride a little bit along the way. And so what you have to do is you have to have those moments where you look back. Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy would say the gap and the gain is something to consider. This is their latest book. It's a phenomenal book. But it talks about when you live in the gap, you're always just setting a new goal every time, right? You weren't really enjoying the gain of where you came from to where you are now. If I look back at 43 years old today and I look at where I was at 23 years old 20 years ago, I was knocking on doors and cold calling to build a business. I had nothing except a great start to a life, the possibility that it could be better, hard work, failure, wisdom, optimism, all that I had. Today at 43, I look back, and when I look back, you're really, really proud. You should be. Wherever you are, you're supposed to be there, so you should be proud of that gain that you've succeeded at. And the gap is always when you move your target, you move your goalposts. If I only. If this only happened now. And we all do it. I do it every day. But being mindful of it helps you be more successful. So just to recap, the millionaire mindset starts with possibility. You sprinkle in optimism and positivity. You add in work ethic for execution. And you set a goal that isn't money related. If you do those things, it's inevitable. If that's really your goal, to be a millionaire for whatever it can be, to you, you'll hit it. Because the mindset was what you had to shift. You had to shift the mindset. Mindset is everything. The thought, what you think you are, right? We hear this all the time. You are what you think you are. If you've never heard that, listen to it. Say it to yourself. If you wake up every day and say, oh, I'm so bad at my job. I'm so ugly. I'm so fat. I'm so whatever. All the negative things that people say to themselves, flip the mindset. Watch what changes. Watch how you see yourself in the mirror. Watch how quick your bank account grows. Watch how your life looks better. Watch how your family notices the energy. Watch how much better of a husband, a father, a mother you are. Partner. That is the mindset. See, being a millionaire means nothing without all the other things that make life worth living. Having a rich life still matters, but having a rich life with an extra $1 million can probably make it a little better. So enjoy your millionaire mindset, and don't forget to tune into our other videos. Subscribe, like, share. These are videos that other people just might need as a reminder. A little positive energy, a spark to help them think differently. And thanks for following us. Watch our other videos.